What attracted me to Child's Play is what attracts everybody, which is it's every child's nightmare. The doll that comes to life, that comes from, of all people, Brad DOURIF, who's actually a wonderful guy.
The script came to me while I was shooting a film somewhere in New Mexico. And it was Tom Holland who said, there's this character who's going to be eventually a doll. Do you want to do it? And I said, sure.
We had to find the mother, and we interviewed quite a few people. Catherine came in, and Tom was very excited about her, and I thought she was adorable and cute and wholesome, and she read for the part, and she was excellent.
The script for Child's Play came to me through my agent, and it was very emotional. There were even more scenes between the mother and son, and it was a very rich backstory of how I was a single mother, what happened to my husband, why my son is traumatized, prone to fantasy, so that's partly why we don't believe him when he talks about the doll.
You know perfectly well that you're making this up.
But I'm not. Chucky's alive, really.
Andy, Chucky is a doll.
And then from that point, we had to find a little boy. And it's difficult to find a little kid that can really kind of go through what this film was about to ask of he and his family.
I got the audition for Child's Play. They brought me back for a callback. And I had to do the line, Aunt Maggie was a real bitch and got what she deserved.
He said Aunt Maggie was a real bitch and got what she deserved.
And I wasn't comfortable saying that. So when it got to that part in the reading, I said, I'm sorry, I can't remember the next line. I don't remember it. They said, and they gave me the line. They said, you know, you remember, try it again, start over. And when I got to that line, I was like, look, I'm having a really hard time remembering this. I can't remember it. And they said, okay, look, you know, we'll start over from the beginning and see how it goes. And it comes over, and it got to that line, and I broke down. And I said, I'm sorry, I knew the line, I just couldn't say it in front of you. I couldn't get myself to say it. And I think they were so convinced that I had really forgotten the lines. They said, hey, this kid could act. He fooled all of us, you know, let's give him the job.
I was not married, I was not a mother, and I'm playing a mother. It was my first mother role.
I remember we were a little uncomfortable trying to set up our dynamic between the two of us.
We had the first run through, and here's this little 6-year-old and I, and there was this tension, and he could feel that I didn't know what to do with children.
So I don't know if it was my mother or my acting coach who came up with this idea for her to give me this little, they found this little crystal ball.
Alex's mom gave me a little thing and said, tell him that this is for him.
She took me aside and she said, okay, this is a magic ball, and you gotta hold on to this.
You know, and so just slowly started to break down the ice.
It was like a real bonding experience for us, and I still have this thing at my house.
By the time we started principal photography, you know, we were tight and close.
To train for Mike, I actually spent some time with the Chicago Police Department, which is not all that unusual. And it's a great way of getting a feel for the job. I went on a couple of actually rather frightening calls with these two detectives that I worked with. And I must say, I was scared witless.
Good night, asshole.
Tom Holland was pro rehearsal.
I've got you.
You stupid bitch, you filthy slut. You think you can fuck with me?
But the rehearsal went great because I was acting out Chucky as the doll.
He would be the doll. He was Chucky.
Andy, stop her. I'm your friend to the end, remember?
This is the end, friend.
Action!
Production started off in Chicago.
Alex!
We had no place to work because it was only a couple of weeks, so we had to work out of our hotel room. I remember I had boxes of dolls all over the place. We had to set up for the whole scene at the very beginning of the film where the toy store just explodes. That was fun.
We filmed that winter. We started New Year's Eve.
And cut. We did a fair amount of night shooting in Chicago during the coldest part of the winter.
I had to do my stuff as Charles Lee Ray, and that just involved a lot of running in very cold weather.
Don't leave me, God, no!
There was a scene in which Catherine Hicks, who plays Karen, gets into a cab, and I try to stop her.
You hear me? You don't want to go down there at this
time of night!
I walk out of the door and I go to stop her, and literally I walked out and I went, my vocal cords froze in my throat.
All the exteriors were done in Chicago, but the interiors were really done back in Culver City on the lot there.
We got back to LA, and I thought, well, here's the doll.
Working on the set with all the cool stuff that they had to make Chucky and all the different sets that they had was the coolest thing for me.
It was really exciting just to do all these things, you know, with people that were so incredibly versed at doing these effects. Kevin really asked a great deal of his crew and really pushed everybody to the very end to try to make the doll do things that was demanded of it in the course of the production.
It took a while to find his character, too. It was the first time we ever did it, so, you know, the puppeteers were adding to this. It took us almost the whole film just to figure out who he was.
How about a sneeze?
I like that.
Ready?
Sleepy.
Gesundheit.
I don't think I slept much, you know, in, 6 months, just building him and then going to set.
Ready? And action.
Alex Vincent was very mature for his age. David Kirshner was concerned that we'd get Chucky on the set and how Alex would react to it.
They took me into this room, they showed me that I met the 9 puppeteers, or 7 or 9 puppeteers that operated him, and I thought it was the coolest thing.
We were able to, show him how Chucky worked, behind the scenes. We pulled up his shirt and we showed him, the mechanisms, and we showed the puppeteer working. And he was great from the, he never looked at it and was frightened of it. He was a great kid to work with and he had no problems.
I think the most popular question that I've been asked my whole life is if I was afraid making the movie. And I always say, when they said cut, he stopped trying to kill me. So I had nothing to be afraid of.
I am amazed in looking at it, what we were able to accomplish with very simple, rudimentary filmmaking techniques. There's a scene where Chucky's walking down a hall, and what you don't see is that there's a dolly that's being pushed as the camera's on him as he's looking back and forth across this hall. And it worked incredibly well. Sometimes we would use a version of the house that was 30% larger. So when we put a little person in a costume, that little person looked like he was much smaller.
Several times we used Ed Gale. He's about 10 inches taller than Chucky. We would come to the shop and he would study the doll because we decided if he just moved fluently, we could not mimic that.
The wonderful actor that played Chucky as a little person studied what Kevin was doing with the movements of the doll and tried to capture that movement in his movements.
We used him in scenes like when Chucky gets caught on fire, he runs around. It's a 30% bigger stage, so Ed was about 30% bigger than Chucky, so they literally built an entire living room stage 30% larger.
Okay. All right, you're out. Stop.
I did work a lot with various mock-ups of the doll. There's a scene in which the doll attacks Detective Norris in the car, and it took weeks. I remember one day in particular where all I did was my hand on the dashboard reaching for the radio, because he ultimately grabs for the cigarette lighter to burn the doll. That took almost a day. It's a real challenge in these movies to keep a kind of spontaneity. You're imagining whatever it is that's behind you. That was a little strange to see these guys kind of lurking down there, operating animatronic handles and things. It's exhausting, exacting, sometimes all night, hours and hours and hours of just doing things over and over and over again to make sure that the camera angle is exactly right so the glint on the knife is caught. It's an exhausting process. The end result is fun, and it's great.
This is the best blood in the business. It's called, he calls it real blood, R-E-E-L. And I'm not kidding. They use it in all the movies.
In terms of my acting, I would substitute for Chucky a snake, like I hate snakes. I would just make myself afraid by thinking it was a snake under the sofa. I had already heard the name Kevin Yeager, and I'd seen you with the puppeteers, and I thought, oh my God, he's so cute. I had one scene left. And I saw him sort of go out the door, you know, way at the end of the soundstage. And I thought, I wonder if he stayed to watch me. That's my first time I saw you.
And you were in love instantly?
Uh-huh.
You were. You don't remember meeting me the first time. I walked up, Miss Hicks, and I handed you the doll, and you were hot. In, you know, the middle of all of that, horror, death, blood, violence, two people found each other. And we're still together.
Yeah, 17 years.
There was a whole cut of the movie where Tom brought in an actress to do the voice of Chucky.
They were just going to replace my voice stuff. Just let me be Charles Lee Ray, and they were going to do the voice. But it totally didn't work.
Even though Brad Dourif played Charles Lee Ray in the prologue, there was a whole cut of the movie, and it's really funny because Chucky sounds gay.
By the time they came back to me, they were a little on the desperate side.
You know, when I came here learning all that stuff about how to beat death, I thought maybe you were pulling my chain.
I went back to what was that I had done originally in the first rehearsal.
You mean I have to live out the rest of my life in this body?
When I ADR'd it, it was very difficult.
I said talk to me, damn it, or else I'm gonna throw you in the fire!
You stupid bitch, you filthy slut! Did you fuck with me?
There's like 2 or 3 days of losing your voice. Because Chucky's always really gets his in the end.
Andy, no, please. We're friends to the end, remember?
This is the end.